obviously fortunate in the situation where they face mask Aaron, or, he kind of, I don't know, like it was a penalty.
It was a clear penalty, right?
It was a penalty.
We are here at the Midwest Legends podcast with the one and only Mason Crosby, the Packers all-time point leader, Super Bowl winner.
That's right.
Mason Crosby, thanks for being here, man.
Great to be here.
Thanks for coming on the podcast. It's the Midwest Legends. You obviously are Midwest Legend, leading scorer for the Green Bay Packers, and then 258 consecutive games.
258.
Yeah. And then I actually heard your brother doing an interview, and if you look at if you went back to your time at CU, it was like 330 something.
It was a lot. Yeah, I don't think I missed a game. Since I think it was my senior year or junior, and I didn't miss a game. I didn't play like a snap that I was supposed to play, something like that, since junior year of high school. So
that's impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously football is a tough game, but just in anything to go that long without missing a game is amazing. So
yeah, and that's something that I prided myself in. Like, as I look at my career, that's probably like the biggest stat that I hang my hat on, is like accountable and available, right? As I was going to show up every day. Some days weren't as good as others, but I was going to be there. I was going to give my all, and I was going to always be available for that team.
In which you were. And I heard a story, I think it was in an interview you gave, where you basically said that was how you started with your dad. If he needed something, whether it was painting or like nailing a board, you came in and took care of the end of it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. You heard that. That's one of my, I think that's one of my parents' favorite stories. This was probably early Twitter and the social media space. Sure. And my dad's digging holes, putting up a fence, doing concrete. And he's just it was hot. It was summer in Texas. He's like, hey, I could just really use a hand to kind of, finish this up.
Sure.
So I come rolling in, it's putting in probably 15 boards across, putting one post in and all that. Then I take a picture and a selfie and be help my dad put a fence up today. And they saw it and they're just seriously? You're taking credit for this? I'm like, it's what I do. It's my job. You know, it's if I'm going to get the bad stuff, if I miss a kick and lose it, and it's on me that I lost the game, I got to get the good stuff.
Right.
Too.
That's only fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so you grew up in Lubbock, Texas, right?
Yes, I was born there.
Okay.
Lived there till I was 4.
Right.
And then moved to Georgetown, Texas.
And that's where you went to high school?
I went to, high school in Georgetown.
And it sounds like you were quite involved in sports, not just football early on, right?
Yeah, I played everything. And I encourage my kids and all kids to just find what you love and are passionate about and play all the sports. So I was fortunate, my parents chased me around. I played soccer, basketball, baseball. Yeah. Didn't play football until 7th grade, in an official capacity.
Sure.
And just, I love all the nuances of what sports brings, not just for the physical aspect, but, being a teammate, working with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
It's teams aren't made up of all like-minded and exactly the same types of person. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful, right? You're chasing after a goal that might be the same, but you're all completely different in character and physical ability, all those things. And whenever you can make it work, that's amazing.
And everybody's got their own role to play and does their own part, and it all comes together like that.
Exactly, yeah.
And so you started playing football in 7th grade. Were you kicking right away, or what did you do in your football, started a career, right?
That's kind of a funny story. Again, so thankful to my parents. They always let me find my own way and my own path. But whenever it was time for them to step in, they'd encourage me in the right direction. So I was a smaller, I wasn't I was super skinny. I played soccer. So I was could run forever, do all that. Yeah. And they literally had me at flanker, and I was blocking back, and then would get the ball occasionally in 7th grade. And my dad was just why don't you tell them that you can kick? And I'm honestly, I love playing ball. I love tag. I was on defense as well, and I'm just no, they picked who they wanted to kick. I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to go out there and try to do my best. And it was some defensive tackle, big kid, and he just toe punched it. And so he gets hurt in the game.
All right.
And that was my moment. And it was like, they literally on the sideline, like, and I had never said anything. And they're just like, who else can kick? And I was like, it's my moment.
There you go.
7th grade, Taylor, Texas, playing this team. And so I go out and literally first kickoff I hit in 7th grade, I think I hit it down to like the 5-yard line, you know?
Yeah,
and they were like, why didn't you tell us you like could kick the ball? And so literally like, so through the end of 7th grade, going into 8th grade, I mean, we started trying extra points and field goals and stuff like that. And then and at that point I was raw. I was like playing soccer. I could just kick a ball. And so I would just kind of eyeball it. And then I started going to camps and kind of learning, you know, the steps and the technique and all of those things and honing my craft. And I love the challenge of what kicking is. And it's never, you know, you try to make it the same as possible, but it's like footing, conditions, wind, all the variables are ever changing. And that challenge is just so exciting.
Was your dad like, I told you so? Like this is
Yeah, he was just like, man, I'm glad like the opportunity presented itself and it didn't just pass you by and then like there's regret that like you never spoke up, right?
Yep. Would you think that the soccer background helped you with the kicking?
For sure. Okay. Yeah. Just for the natural ability of knowing how to like strike a ball. Right. And then, but it's so different. I tried to teach like all my soccer teammates, you know, they saw what I was able to do and they're like, oh, maybe we should get into kicking. So we'd go out after soccer practice and I'd always bring a ball or whatever. And they'd like want to, you know, see if they could do it. And a lot of them, like the tendency for soccer players is like snap hook the ball. Yep. Like they kick it hard to the left because they come over the top and it's just like, you know, it's not a natural thing, ball shape, all the things are different. And so there were very few that like could just like rip a field goal, you know, 50 yards. You know, they'd line drive it, do different things. So I tried to teach, you know, a few of my soccer buddies how to kick the ball. But I just felt so fortunate that there was an innate ability to do it. Yep. And then it was like, then I worked really hard to just like get my technique and my craft really dialed in.
And I assume your team was pretty happy now they could get, you know, somebody's got nailing field goals and long kickoffs and stuff. And
yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was fun to, you know, the hardest part in those early years and honestly throughout the whole career is the snap and the hold. And the protection and all those things. It's like, so 7th, 8th grade, snapping and holding it was a circus at times. You know, it's like that ball's floating, like somebody's trying, and we used the block, you know, early on. So it's like they'd miss the block, and then I'd kick everything. You know, and it's just like just trying to get that timing down. But I thought it was, you know, and again, like teaching and learning and doing all of that was always part of the challenge as well. And it's so fun because it went full circle. I actually coached my son's 8th grade football team. Last year. So he's a freshman now. And my son and another boy, really good kickers, and we kicked a field goal. Like we kicked probably 10 field goals throughout the season. I think the long was like 36 yards or something, which was awesome. So to be able to do that, and for me to see it, like the initial thought of like one of the coaches, like offensive linemen or snappers. And I was like, nope, we're going to like at this level, you can't hit the snapper. Let's have anyone try, and then we'll find the best guy. The guy that ended up like our long snapper was like a tall, skinny wide receiver. You know, like a defensive back. But he spun the ball. He was really good, and it was awesome. And on punt, he was just another cover guy. So I was like, all right, let's get this thing done.
Well, that's a good point too. There's so many things in a successful kick, right? Because you have the snap, the hold. I mean, you got to have the blocking, but us as the fans often are like, oh, it's on the kicker. Well, there's a few other variables there, right?
Exactly. That's why I tried to treat those guys really well. I was like, always best friends with the offensive linemen. And then tried to take good care of my snapper and holder because I depended wholeheartedly on those guys. I mean, everything that I was able to accomplish, you know, kicking the ball through the uprights only happened because of those guys. So it's the ultimate like team situation in a game, right? Because it's snap has to be perfect, hold has to be perfect. You kick that ball from snap to hold in like less than 1.3 seconds. So it like the timing, and then you have 300-pounders and like DBs coming off the edge trying to block it every time. So all of that has to go together. And I mean, if you watched us, like the joke is for kickers is that, you know, we don't we don't practice as much. We didn't do as much. And it was like, while y'all were out practicing, yeah, like it's taxing and harder on y'all for sure. But I was inside and we were, doing hundreds of snaps and holds. And we were like working on like our craft, even if you didn't see me kicking a ball every second of every day.
Well, so at some point then you end up in, playing in Colorado. Did you think, hey, I think I have an opportunity to make it as a kicker in college? I mean, how'd that come about?
Yeah, so I ended up, so my career, like my kind of journey in football was I continued playing in the field. So I actually was a decent like free safety through my senior year of high school. Didn't know, and honestly, I was trying to decide if soccer was still a path at that time. But probably around my junior going into senior year, it was like, all right, like I'd started kicking some big field goals and doing that, and I was like, all right, I'm going to chase this. And the hardest thing for me was actually transitioning to college, where I didn't play on the field. So like I used to, I'd be on the field 90% of the game, and then I'd kick field goals. Like that was just part of my my game. And then going to college, just being on the sideline and watching. And like my first couple games in Colorado, I'd like kick my leg out on the sideline because I was just like, I was bored. Right. I was like, I had to learn that patience of when do I warm up? When do I get ready for my opportunity? Like how does all that nuance work? And just another challenge that, I just had to kind of figure out through that process.
I suppose there's a lot of hurry up and wait on the sideline and trying to figure out that whole timing of when you need to start.
I had to become a much more patient person. I felt like probably in high school and all that, like maybe even a little more high strung in a sense. Like it was like I just was doing everything. Yeah. So in college, you just had to like find that like quiet space where it's like, all right, I'm gonna get ready whenever my time is like I'm getting closer, but then I have to find that like that reserve and like just sit there and like not get all worked up and like ready for that moment.
Well, I think it sounded as well that I heard your parents had a big part, obviously helping you, getting you to practice, doing that things, but as far as I think your mom put together like highlight tapes for you for college. For college.
You dove into all the stuff. Yeah. And back then it was DVDs. Like we were actually like burning discs. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, she helped so much and like so thankful like for her and my dad and like just again willing to jump into any situation. But they also, and I try to do this with my kids, they also had me lead it, right? Like it was like they weren't gonna push me in a direction. It was like, this is something that they knew I wanted and I wanted to chase after. And then it's like, all right, we'll jump right in with you. And so I'm so grateful for that. And burning DVDs, sending them to schools. And we were kind of ahead of the curve in a sense. There was actually one, I think I sent a DVD to Texas A&M maybe. Okay. Like my junior year, after my junior year, and they, I think, thought I was a senior. So they actually called and they were like, hey, we're interested, like what's your prospect for next year coming in or whatever, like walk on. I was like, I'm going to be a senior. Like, and they're like, oh, okay. Like,
pump the brakes.
Yeah. So like we had to kind of like pivot and make sure like everyone knew, like, cause I mean, it's different than it is now, right? Yeah. Now it's everything, social media, digital, all those things. Yep. People kind of know, like it was like a lot of things were cold. We were just cold sending to people and they didn't really know anything about me.
And so you ended up at Colorado, I think in 2003, and you kicked there from 2003 through 2006, right? I think you were All-American junior and senior there. Yep. And you had a lot. I don't remember the exact amount, but I know there wasn't a lot of kicks that you missed while you were there. You did pretty good. So.
I kicked, and I think like kind of my biggest thing was like kicking long field goals, right? I kicked a lot of long field goals, some game winners, some big moments. My junior year had a ton of long, big kicks, and kind of got my name, out there. Yep. So I considered actually leaving early. Okay. After that season, Coach Gary Barnett got fired. Didn't know what the future was for that program. So did a lot of soul searching. But, coming back from my senior year, I was able to kind of basically like solidify a legacy there in Colorado, which sadly I think now like that piece of college football and stuff is kind of going away a little bit with some of the new rules and things. But I think through college and then going to the Packers and all that, like that was something really important to me was
Right.
I can go back. I can finish I got my college degree. I was able to get, 30 plus records or whatever and all these things and say, I am a Colorado Buffalo. And like, I did it the right way.
Was that part of the decision you want to come back, help your team, set your legacy, the culture, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it was important. Like I don't know what would have happened. It's if I had gone out early. Prospects look good as far as going to the NFL and that at that time, but I don't know. I just wasn't ready to leave and be done. I wanted to finish what I started, and it all worked out.
Right.
So it's like it's one of those.
Because who knows what would have happened had you gone in a year early? You may have not ended up the Packers.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many different things, but you made that decision and it worked out.
Yep.
And then eventually, so 2007 draft, you get drafted, right?
Yeah.
And in the 6th round by Green Bay Packers. Ted Thompson had something to do with that, right?
For sure. And that was a surprise, honestly. Like, I hadn't had a ton of conversations with the Packers through the offseason. I think I sat and talked to Mike Stock, who was the special teams coordinator for Green Bay at the time at the Combine. They had a guy that Dave Rayner, who had replaced Longwell when he went to the Vikings. He had a decent year. It didn't feel like they were like really looking for a new kicker at the time. I knew Dallas and Kansas City were looking for a guy at those spots.
Sure.
And then they ended up drafting Justin Medford and Nick Folk, respectively. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I don't know if there's another team that is looking for a guy. And so on that day 2 of the draft, we're sitting there and it's like, man, I don't know if this is going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to be drafted. And when I saw that number come up and like, I didn't know who it was and all that. And I'm just like, quiet, like get on the phone. And it's, it's the Green Bay Packers and they're calling to say they're about to take me in the 6th round to become the kicker for the Packers was one of the coolest moments ever.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you heard this story. My brother grew up, like he chose the Packers as like his team when he was in kindergarten. Him and his buddy, they decided they were going to be Packers fans. So he runs upstairs, grabs his cheese head, almost falls coming down the stairs, so excited. And I still remember that moment vividly.
How did your brother Reese become a Packers fan? Because I would assume living in Texas, you probably were Dallas fans growing up.
Yeah, so family, everybody. We watching Dallas on Thanksgiving, and it was a love-hate relationship. I think at times, like all I ever heard was complaining about the Dallas Cowboys. Sure. But growing up early '90s in Texas, I mean they were pretty awesome. Winning championships, and so my brother, his best friend, I think his dad is from Wisconsin.
Okay,
so his best friend in kindergarten as a Green Bay Packer fan, because that's how it works, right?
Yep.
It's a legacy piece. Like somebody is a Packers fan, it gets passed down through the family. And so they met each other in kindergarten. Where he tells the story, they were at the lunch table and it's getting to know each other. And they're like, what teams do you like to watch? And his friend Jamie was like, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. And my brother was like, all right, so am I. We're best friends. And so they followed. And actually my rookie year in Green Bay, I flew both of them up and, got them tickets. And they came to one of my early games there in Lambeau Field.
So when you got picked up by the Packers in that draft, did you know much about Green Bay? I mean, obviously your brother's a big Packer fan, so you probably heard about it during the season because he was watching the games and cheering them on. But
only so much, until you're in it. And it's again, coming into Green Bay as a rookie, being drafted there. And it's just like, all right, well, there's Lambeau Field, which is iconic and amazing. But it's like, you think of, all right, I'm going to the NFL, these big cities. It's like you're going to all this. And it's like, but for me, it was the perfect fit.
Sure.
I grew up in, Georgetown at the time when I lived there, a small town.
Yep. I
like that vibe. I don't like the, a crazy big city. That's just not my personality. So right away it was like, all right, I'm home. This is a perfect spot for me. And then to continue to learn what the history and legacy of the Packers is, and then to be able to put your name into like some of that is. It was just another one of those new challenges, new opportunity to go chase after, and so fortunate how it all worked out.
Yeah, and going from a small town like Georgetown to a smaller, at least town, as you're looking at a franchise compared to any other franchise, right? Something good for you and a good fit.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of sport through and through, so I knew, obviously I knew the history of Green Bay. I know like what that organization is. But then you just start getting into the depth of it once you're finally there.
Yeah.
And it's such a unique situation flying into Austin Straubel and like, one terminal or, I guess two, splits. And you're just like, wow, all right. Like this is not like kind of in a sense how you maybe thought about it as a kid in your brain. Like you almost like, I think when you envision it, you envision like the Super Bowl.
Yep.
It's like the big fanfare of the show. And it's like, all right, I'm coming to work. Like I'm coming to Green Bay for, to be a Green Bay Packer, but it's a job and I need to like go out and chase after this thing.
And when you got there, was there any one Packer that you're like, man, I mean, obviously you get to meet all the Packers because you're going to be the incumbent kicker probably, obviously it's somebody in front of you, but were there any Packers like, man, as a fan of sport and football that you wanted to meet back in 2007?
Well, yeah. So I was fortunate enough. I played with two quarterbacks, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So Favre, it was his last year there in Green Bay. It was my first, and the legend of Brett Favre. Sure. Like walking in that locker room, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like his locker was technically like 2 down from me.
Okay.
But at that time he was kind of, he did his own thing. It's like, I didn't see him as much in the locker room, but it was just like the getting to be around him and meet him for the first time. And then, the Donald Drivers and Charles Woodson. And like, it's just like, is this really happening? It's like those guys. And as a rookie, you're just like, all right, go out, do your job. Like the least amount of like notice that you like bring to yourself in any kind of sense, negative or otherwise. It's like, all right, just make sure that you show up, you do your job every day, and then maybe these guys will start noticing and appreciating that. And so just tried to go to work, and do my job at a high level every opportunity I had.
And you did as a rookie. I mean, you were the leading scorer in the NFL that year, right?
I was, and what was so funny too is looking back that training camp, Aaron Rodgers was holding a lot in those too. Yeah, so it was kind of weird at that moment. Obviously he was a first-round draft pick. He was going to be the next quarterback was the assumption. But in that first training camp, it was like I'm telling Aaron Rodgers how I liked him to hold on kicks and doing all that, and like
how was he as a holder? Did he do a decent job?
He thinks he's the best holder in the history of sports, which honestly I never had an issue with any holds he had, and I appreciated his, like he was as a quarterback, just attention to detail. Like he was able to adjust, able to, great hands, obviously, like never had to worry about him catching the ball.
Sure.
And so, I always, I think we had a good rapport from that very, very start. But like it's fun reminiscing and looking back at like those moments where I'm like, Aaron Rodgers was holding, I'm a rookie trying to make this team. And now when you think of who Aaron Rodgers is, like that he was in that situation as well.
Yeah, you guys would go on to win a Super Bowl later and all that. That's a pretty cool story, to start that way. Because that was Brett Favre's last year with the Packers, right? When you first came in. Do you remember any just memorable or iconic games with Brett Favre when you were there? Because like I said, I know you said one of the best seats in the house on the side.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that was a good year for us. We went 13-3. Obviously disappointing in the NFC Championship with how that one ended. My first experience with Favre as a quarterback and all that was I get to kick a game winner against the Philadelphia Eagles. My first game in the NFL. And I still just remembering like Brett Favre taking a knee to set me up. Did he knee? He took a knee and we called timeout to set me up to kick a game winner. And it's like I'm running on the field as Brett Favre is coming off and like expecting me to go win this thing, and that kind of stuff is those stick with you.
Right.
And it's like those are those moments that are everlasting. And I still remember that, where it's just like he's going off the expectations that I'm going to get it done. And I just still remember coming back to practice the next week, and it was almost like that first time where it's like I'm on his radar. You know? It's like, all right, this kid can stick around. Like, he got the job done whenever we needed it.
And you're on the radar for the good reason, right?
Exactly.
Because even though there's all those things that lead up to whether you win or lose, at the end of the game, often everybody's looking to you, and you either win the game or lose the game, even though there's a lot of other things that could have helped or hurt it before.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's if you miss a field goal in the first quarter and you lose by 3, everyone's like, well, if you made that kick, it's like, well, a lot happened from that point on. Same thing just at the end. There's a lot of football that's played before I go out there to, try to finish it off at the end of the game. But I also appreciated that, and I took pride that was my job. It's like we all had jobs, we all had roles on that team. And if I didn't come through in that moment, there were 50 other guys that said, like, well, if I had done this better, like, we wouldn't have been in that situation. And that's why football is the ultimate team sport. And like, I loved it so much because in that locker room, blame wasn't passed around. Sure. It was just like, I can be better at my job, and I'm going to support you regardless of what happened in that situation.
It wasn't like, Mason, you missed that, you lost the game. I could have did this before that. I could have did this, and we wouldn't even been in that position.
Everybody can look through a game and say, like, I could have done better, in that moment.
True team mentality.
Yeah, for sure.
You had your first game there at Lambeau.
Yeah.
So how did it feel getting ready for that game? And I think the weather was kind of wild a little bit too,
It was, yeah. Yeah, it's just like Lambeau Field. You're going out, and I still just, it's like remembering running out on the field for the first time, and the roar of the crowd, and like it was. So I run out. I think it was sunny when it started, and then it started raining at one point, which classic Wisconsin weather. I come to find out that's normal. Like there, like my first game, I'm like, oh, maybe this is a weird thing, and then it's like I play 258 games, and it's like, all right, this is just kind of what happens. You can't expect September to be even nice all the time, but so I remember like it got windy, and then it rained, and then it calmed back down, and it was like every weather possible, because we had a moment. My first kick was a 53-yarder in that game, and our long snapper Rob Davis, in a sense, iced me, because he gets the ball, and I guess it had hit like the paint, and it had been raining, and so like there was paint like all in the seams of the football, and so he gets his hands on it. He's like, I can't snap this, and so he like calls the ref over and is like, we need a new football. This thing is is unsnappable, and I'm like lined up ready, and I'm like, what's going on? So I have to reset and go. It's like my first kick in the NFL, a 53-yarder, and I get iced. By my own guy. Yeah. Luckily, snap, hold, everything was great, and I was able to execute. And I know my mom had she has never really said anything, but like she wasn't able to make. I think my brother had something, and she couldn't make it, but my dad was there. So to be able to kind of have that moment after the game with my dad was pretty awesome as well. Just that first iconic big kick in a big moment.
Yeah, and I mean, he sees his son not only now professional kicker for the Green Bay Packers, right, but also does what he comes through and wins, that helps win the game, right? I mean, that's
and then I was able to also, I squib kicked after that. We still had a few seconds left, and I was able to get the tackle on the kickoff. So always prided myself on being able to at least get a guy on the ground if I needed to.
Do you think you credit that back to your high school and middle school days of learn how to, because when you're out on the field,
for sure, and it was just getting the mentality again. I talking about my parents a lot, just like how they raised me. It was just like, it doesn't always have to be perfect. Just get the job done, right? Like, just do what you need to do to do the job. And it's not always right, not always perfect, but you can do it, right? Go out and get it done. And I made some great tackles that looked really nice, and I made some ugly ones, but it was like, I'm going to try to get this person on the ground. And I made some great field goals, and I made some ugly field goals, but it's like, try to get it through the uprights,
Right.
at all costs.
Well, and I think you had 28 tackles and like 24 solo tackles.
Yeah.
So that's
Not a lot of joint tackle. Yeah. It was like I was usually the last one, trying to save something from happening. It was a speed bump occasionally.
Yeah.
There was a couple that were pretty iconic, like the Cordarrelle Patterson strip fumble one. But again, that was after he ran 70 yards, so it was desperate, but was able to get the job done. And it's, that was just always kind of my mentality. It was like, it's not going to always be pretty, but I'm just going to like grit and grind and find a way to, get the job done in the end.
Yeah. When you were in that first year, just in 2007, last year with Brett Favre, did he ever say, hey, good job? Or was this kind of acknowledged that,
I think after that first game, it was like we came back to practice and it was like kind of one of those where it's like, all right, you did a good job, rookie.
Yeah.
And but that's about, it's like I'm not going to give you too much because it's a long season and you better, keep doing your job. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So obviously, you had a really great season that season. You came through, and I think then Brett Favre obviously leaves and heads over, I think at that time would have been to the Jets.
He went to the Jets.
And then Aaron Rodgers takes the helm.
Oh, yeah.
He goes from your holder, right, to now the quarterback.
I asked him if he'd still hold for me, but he wasn't willing to, I guess, once he was the big guy.
He had other things to do at that point.
Exactly.
Rodgers is leading the team as far as the quarterback, but then Favre comes back on the year after, right?
Yeah.
And he's on the Vikings.
Yeah.
I know you hadn't played with Favre very long, but how did you feel about that whole thing?
That was a wild experience, just knowing what Aaron Rodgers was like as a teammate, as a football player, and but the fan, experience of Brett Favre,
right,
and like what he meant to the culture and the fan base in Green Bay and like just Packer fandom. It was a wild experience because everybody still loved the Packers. They were excited about Aaron, but Favre was this icon. So you had people splitting jerseys and like somehow finding themselves like wearing, purple and gold, where it's like that would have never happened if Favre hadn't gone there, right? Like, so I think the fan base felt a little tense and a little pulled whenever he was there with Minnesota. And even just how it all kind of ended, right? Retired, tried to come back, and like that whole show. But it was, it was cool. It was cool to be a part of like a piece of history like that, where Favre comes back to Lambeau. He had a great team there in Minnesota. That first year he was there, and they were tough, and it didn't go so well for us on on that side of things. But you look at that, and it's like it's cool to look back and say that part of Packer history that you were able to be, involved in that. There's not many moments like that where you're kind of passing the torch from the legend Brett Favre to the eventual legend of Aaron Rodgers, and they pass each other there in Lambeau Field.
And you were there for it, right? You're part
there
of it,
for it all, and it's. And then obviously Aaron took the helm. Like they were still, it's like Aaron was developing. It was what was that, 2009, right? And he's developing into what he became, but you didn't really see the Aaron Rodgers until late 2010, and then all of a sudden 2011. The sky's the limit. And to think that you pass from Favre to Rodgers, and only 2008 we didn't make the playoffs, and then we made a run from 2009 to 2017 of winning the North and going to the playoff, like, and dominating for a long period of time. It's pretty impressive.
It is. And so obviously the 2010-11 season, you get to the Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. And how was that? That whole thing I think is interesting too, because the Super Bowl was in Dallas that year, right?
Yeah.
And obviously kind of a hometown to you. You live in Georgetown, but that's Dallas.
For sure.
And so
Texas, and then again they had we had the big ice storm. So it was a weird week. we had a ton of family and like a bunch of get-togethers. Like my uncle lives there still, so he had a party for like all the family and a bunch of people to come over. So did that early in the week, and then it's and then there were some things throughout the course of the week, but it was hard to get around.
Yeah.
It was hard to do a lot, and we were practicing. We were supposed to practice this SMU, but because of the ice and their inability and Dallas to clear a lot of that,
Sure.
and it was still cold. We ended up going to a high school. So Texas high school football is a big thing.
Yep.
And like Highland Park actually had an indoor facility.
Okay.
It wasn't real tall ceilings, but it was full field. We could practice on it. But the specialists couldn't kick in there. So we took a bus with a police escort, which was sketchy. It was scary. Driving
on the ice?
Yeah, driving from the hotel. So we'd go to AT&T Stadium, and we kicked twice there that week. And then we'd have to bus back to practice. And normally it would take 25 minutes. It took us like an hour and 20 minutes every time because, we're sliding on the road. I'm like, I'm just glad I survived that week and was able to play in the game and didn't get in a bad accident.
Were you worried at all just for the Super Bowl because you only had limited kicks during that week? Did that not even play in your mind?
No, by that time, it's like, honestly, it was like, nice to not like wear my leg out because it would have been hard, like the excitement and energy of that. Like, I don't know if it had been perfect weather, we'd been somewhere else. It's like, you want to make sure it's perfect. You want to kick a lot. You want to do all that. I was just able to like kind of lock in mentally, prepare for the game, get my kicks in when I could, but just kind of take as many mental reps as possible.
How was the team feeling overall at that time? Pretty confident or?
Very confident. With how the end of that season was, it was kind of one of those, it's like, we're going to be tough to beat, right? It was just like how we finished the season off in the regular season, then going through those playoffs. It was like, this team is special. We are, galvanized. We had awesome chemistry throughout from top to bottom. So it was just one of those special teams. And I think having that ice storm in Dallas actually helped us because it was like, we just hung out.
Sure.
It was like we're in the hotel playing cards, hanging out, playing video games. Like guys just spent time together, and it was like, this is ours. We're gonna go take this, and no one could stop us.
Then I think in that game, didn't you? We were talking about your tackles before. Didn't you have a tackle on a
opening kickoff?
Yeah,
which. Not how I wanted to start. It's like, okay, this could be a long day, right? But yeah, I got a tackle on Antonio Brown was returning kicks for the Steelers at that point. It's always one of those where you're just always happy you get them on the ground, and then you're just like, what happened? You know, and you go and look, and you just, all right, what can I do next? We were kicking off at the 30, at that time, so touchbacks weren't as easy to come by, and so it was like, if we keep scoring, we gotta adjust and find a way to keep this guy from doing anything crazy against us.
And what do you remember the kicks that you had in that game?
So extra points, and then I had a 26-yarder late in the game to get us up. I think it was when it got us up by 5, right? Like before their last drive. So it's late in the game. It was important. We won by 6. I think it got us up by 6. And so I'm like, I always say it was the hardest, like in the most pressure-packed 26-yard field goal I'd ever had. And it's cool because I'm glad I got a field goal. It would have been a bummer one Super Bowl that you go to and you didn't kick a field goal. So I'm glad I had that because there's always the picture, right, of that kick, and I know it's from that field goal, and just have that Super Bowl logo on there and all the stuff, and just to be able to get it. So now it's on our defense. They have to stop them. Just don't let them score a touchdown, and we win the Super Bowl. And remember in that moment where finally Steelers don't make that 4th down play, and we go out there to kneel the ball down to win that game, confetti falling, that moment. It's everything you can imagine it would be, right? Just you just start running around like you're, grabbing your teammates, yelling. Then my son was 6 months old. Molly, my wife, gets to bring him down on the field, and the iconic pictures of like a lot of players with their kids, and he has got his, earmuffs on, and I'm holding like my favorite picture. I'm holding him. I'm holding like already a printed like newspaper, like Packers won the Super Bowl, and it's just like those memories last forever.
I mean, you reached the pinnacle, right? The biggest game in the sport, in the NFL, and then you guys came out as winners.
Exactly. It was so cool. And then you look back and it's just like, man, we were young. Like, it was like I was 25 years old, and it's like, but you're top of the world, right? And it's just like, man, what's next? Like, how do you top this now?
Right. Well, now, I had Brett Favre on too, and we asked him, and he was the same way. He said he kind of got to the point like, what do you do after this?
Yeah.
But what he realized later is that when you're younger, you think you're going to be back so many times.
Yeah.
But it's really very difficult to get there and then to win, obviously, right? And then you guys got the ring. You won one. So
exactly. And then unfortunately in that situation, it was a weird offseason. That's when we got locked out.
Yeah.
And so it kind of stunk because we didn't get to celebrate it, I feel like, the way we would have if it had been a normal year, right? So they allowed us to come back and do our ring stuff, even though we were locked out. So that was the first time I saw a lot of guys, and that was like in June.
Okay.
From that Super Bowl. And, normally we would have been back in March or April and doing stuff all around the state and celebrating, but everyone was just kind of doing their individual stuff, going back home, getting appearances or doing things like that. But being able to celebrate that moment with the team in June, and then I re-signed with the team. That was my last year of my contract.
Okay.
So I re-signed late that summer and was able to run it back. But the team changed a lot.
Yeah.
We lost some players, which it happens every year.
Yep.
But I told myself, I was like, I can wear this ring until I'm not a Super Bowl champion. And so after that 2011 year, we got knocked out in the divisional round, went 15-1, thought we were going to win another one, get knocked out. And it's like, I put that ring away. And I was like, we're going to get back and I'm going to get another one, but I'm not the Super Bowl champ anymore. So that's what kept me hungry and chasing it. Cause it was that I'm like, I'm 25. I don't want sure. I don't it's awesome winning a Super Bowl, but I think as a competitor and in that space, you're like, I want another one.
Right.
It's like, I want to go get this. And, we sadly, unfortunately fell short. I played in, I think I played in 6 NFC championship games. And
you guys had a lot of success.
Went to one Super Bowl and then, and won the one. So, there's disappointment in that, but there's also a lot of achievement and success in that. Cause I think so many times as Packers fans, even as players, it's like, you could look at that and be like, yeah, we didn't probably achieve what everyone hoped or expected us to. But I think we can look back, especially as I'm done playing now, and I'm like, man, we were good. It was fun. It was awesome. We achieved so much. We just didn't get back and get another one.
But you got that one ring.
We got the one.
There's, obviously great players and great teams that weren't able to do it in the past, that haven't won a Super Bowl. And you look at someone like Dan Marino, never got the ring.
Exactly.
Jim Kelly, right? Yeah. And so the fact that you did get the one ring is such an awesome accomplishment.
I don't know how, I can't imagine how those guys feel. Like Jim Kelly especially, their run, how good those teams were. And just to never, and be in those games and not win one of them, that would hurt way more, I think, than our situation where it's like, you were so close, we never got back, but the one we got to, we did win. So it's like, I have that.
Yes. But yeah, and as a competitor, you always want more. But like Brett Favre was saying, some of those guys basically said, I would have rather not gone and lost because it just haunts you.
Yeah.
Obviously you always go there and as a competitor, you think you're going to win, but looking back and having that loss.
It's like I was saying though, how each guy in a loss will have a reason why it was their fault, right? It's like the same type of thing where, you look at all the games we played in and all that, the further you get in the playoffs, it hurts way worse. I would have rather gotten to those championships and, done all that and lost there than never gone to the playoff. There's guys that have never gone to the playoffs, played 8 to 10 years, never played in a playoff. They knew their season was over after 16 or 17 games. It hurts way worse losing the playoffs because you had a chance.
Yep.
And it's so finite. It's just you literally are playing on Sunday and then you're doing exit interviews on Monday and it's off season's on you.
Yep.
And you're not able to plan for when it's over. And that makes it really abrupt.
Well, I think as fans too, we are often don't realize, we forget that you guys want to win it probably even worse than the fans for all those reasons, right?
Yeah.
You just want to keep going, and you don't want that heartbreaking loss in the NFC Championship.
Yeah,
right?
I feel for my wife in that regard for all those years where we could never make plans, which it was just like, and I think she liked it because everyone would be like, all right, what are you doing after? And she's like, we just can't plan. We plan to go to the playoffs. We'll know whenever it's over, and then we'll figure it out. Because it was just literally like, we can't plan anything until this run is done. And then it ended. And then I'm like, for me, it was like, it's a sharp ending. And I'm like, all right, what are we doing?
Yeah,
Are we going on
Now we're
vacation?
free.
And it was like, then she had to deal with me for, months, where I was just kind of like it was usually 2 weeks after the season. She's like, all right, time to get a structure back. Cause you're just we're so structured those first 2 weeks. I was like, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't want any rules. I don't want any structure in my life.
Well, I suppose throughout your whole season, you have all the meetings. Like everything is structured
For sure.
for you in the NFL.
Yeah,
right?
down to the minute.
Yeah.
It's like they give us iPads, but they always have a screen and our meetings on the board.
Yep.
And it's just like, all right, you're at special teams at 8:00, and then it's a team meeting, and then position meetings, and then practice, and you need to eat here, and you need to do this. It's very structured.
Yeah.
So that second that season was over, it was like, now what do I do? I have to figure out when I need to eat. This is crazy.
Well, I heard an interview that it was a podcast you and your brother were doing, and obviously because, one, it's a Super Bowl, so your brother's going to want to be there, your family's going to want to be there, but also because it was in Texas, Dallas, that you guys went out. There was like a Super Bowl after party, and Kid Rock was there, and it was kind of sounded pretty awesome.
I know, and I didn't realize, I guess, those parties are set. So win or lose, there's a party after, which I can't imagine losing and what that felt like. But so we come in and they announce us, we kind of come into the back of the party. All of our family and friends are there that we got tickets for and whatnot. And Kid Rock played for 2 hours, and we're cruising around. We got in trouble because it was getting late in the night, and we were tired of waiting for the bartenders to hand us our beers. So I almost got kicked out of my own Super Bowl party because we were just grabbing beers and out of the thing. And then I think it was 3 a.m, something like that. We have an awesome picture with me, my brothers, and my sister, kissing this Lombardi trophy.
Yep. So awesome.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Guys left stuff, at the hotel because they made us leave at 9 a.m. the next morning, which I thought was just mean, in a sense. But guys are getting woken up and they're trying to throw their stuff together to get on the bus to get back to Green Bay. Guys left iPads, left stuff in the room. It was a disaster.
Yeah, early morning travel plans for a late night. So
it wasn't smart.
No, kind of skipping ahead. You had a 2012 season was a little rougher for you, right? Obviously you came off the high of all highs and you had done great things and you guys had reached the pinnacle of football. But 2012, you kind of got in a little bit of a lull, right?
Yeah. So like I said, I signed a new deal in 2011, had a good year in 2011, and I had signed a 5-year contract. 2012, it was one of those, came into the season, felt great, started off the season, pretty well. And then just hit a rough patch. And I think I missed a kick in 9 consecutive games, something like that.
Yeah.
And again, thankful to the Packers, thankful to Coach McCarthy, Ted Tom. They knew who I was and they knew what I was about. And the fact that they didn't move on from me said a lot. And thankful to Aaron and that team because we were still winning.
Yeah.
Even though I was missing kicks. Had we been losing, it might have been a different story. But had a good team and we're still winning games. I was just missing weird field goals. It'd be 42-yarder in the middle of a game or something, and we still found ways to win, fortunately. So I think that kept me going along. And I tell this story a lot. It was towards the end of the season. Obviously we're making a push for the playoffs. Kicks are going to become really important towards the end of that year. And Charles Woodson, it was middle of practice. I was having an okay practice, but I had missed a kick in the period before. We're having another field goal period coming up. Woodson just pulls me over. It's cold out, and he's just like, "Hey, what like, are you like, do you try to make field goals? Like, and I was like, I thought he was being a jerk.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I was like, well, yeah, I'm like, obviously I'm trying to make field goals. Like, what do you mean? Like, and he was like, no, I mean, like, is that your motivation? Like, are you like trying to make the kick, or like, what are you like, what's your process? Like, what are you thinking about? And it was so simple. And it's like how I tried to think of things, but he almost like reset me in that moment. And I was like, man, I'm like trying so hard to get the ball between those uprights. And like, that's my goal. But maybe I'm losing sight of all the stuff that like happens behind it.
Yeah.
And I like literally just like, it like reset my brain. And I'm like, I am going to like only worry about what happens before I kick the ball and it impact. I can't do anything. And he was like, you can't do anything once it leaves your foot. Like you can't force it through the uprights. Like that's the end product. Like take care of everything behind it. And it was crazy. I go into that next period, have a great period, and then like didn't miss a kick, the last few games of the season, and like went on a good run. And then from that and through 2013, I had like made the most consecutive field goals in Packer history.
Yeah.
I think I made 23 in a row or something after that moment. And so I give Charles Woodson a lot of credit for just getting me out of my own way and out of my head of like, what is my goal, right? It's like, what am I trying to do? And I can't control that down there. I can only control right where I am.
Well, that's pretty cool because Charles Woodson is a legend, right? One of the best to play the game on defense, especially. And for him to come there and kind of help you get reset just speaks to him. But also, I mean, you were humbled enough to listen to him, but just the team, just the team, the camaraderie, all of that to work together like that, right?
I appreciate that he took the moment, and whenever Charles Woodson spoke, because he wasn't like a rah-rah, like gonna just, throw out sound bites all the time. So it's like whenever he spoke, it's like you're gonna listen. And he's a legend. He's like he's obviously done all of it, and it's and watching him play, you knew what he was saying was the way he approached it, right? It's like he knows interception, tackle, like all that is like the end result, but he's like he was so detailed in the work to get to that spot that none of that mattered. It was like, what do I do in this space I'm in to get that result to happen?
Yeah, that's cool. So another person, again, because you had that great view, that's a Packer legend that overlapped with you for quite some time, Clay Matthews. It's kind of his own, the clay maker, all that. Any memorable times that you can? I mean, he had a lot, but he was his own personality with his hair and just the.
Well, Clay was next to me in the locker room,
all right,
his whole time there, and so. Every time he would throw his hair and like sling water on me or my lot, like I'd throw his shoes or do something, because it was like, I mean, he was, younger than me, all that, but he came in, he had the beautiful flowing hair and all that. He'd come out of a shower though every time, and he's slinging his hair, or he thought I guess his locker went halfway into mine.
I see.
So it was like, I mean, I can't tell you how many pairs of shoes I threw in the laundry basket or like tossed across the room, and I'm like, Clay, I know you're awesome at football, but come on, like a little respect for boundaries here. So that was like just some of the inside locker room things. And what's awesome now is actually he lives down by me in Tennessee, and so I see him, a couple times a month now, and our families get together and just we were reminiscing about some of those times. And something that was so awesome about Clay is. The hair, his look, it's like Thor out there, but it was almost his image was like this, finesse kind of like, he was like a pretty boy type thing, but his mentality was like to go and destroy people, right? Like he had a mentality of like he was hungry, he wanted to, like he was telling me the other day, he was like, I literally. My goal was to inflict pain on everybody that like came like got in front of me. And I'm like, man, like it's fascinating because like how he played, he was fast, and he was physical, but like I just it was cool to hear him say that was like what he wanted to do. He was like, if I'm hitting a quarterback, he's going to feel it. Like
Yeah.
if he's like, and then like his, like probably one of the biggest, going back to the Super Bowl, one of the biggest Clay moments was with him and Kevin Green. And whenever he's like, and Clay is telling him to spill the run, right? Cause like he knew what play they were going to run. And then he hits Mendenhall and, knocks that ball out. And that was the turning point in the game and, pretty much got us the win there for that Super Bowl. So it's moments like that. And I love that about Clay Matthews. Like, it's like he had the hair, he had the look, he did all this stuff, but the guy was a competitor and a ball player.
Yeah.
And he just did it the Green Bay Packer way for sure.
And you gave him a little bit of your locker space to make it happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on, man. Like, I know I'm a kicker, but this is my space.
Right.
Like I get my my 5 feet right here. Like, don't take any more.
So speaking of just cool events, and because I heard you talk about this, I think it was the 2015 Rodgers to Rodgers. The Hail Mary?
Yeah.
What do you remember of that? Because I heard you talk about it one time.
I remember, well, obviously fortunate in the situation where they face mask Aaron, or, he kind of, I don't know, like it was a penalty.
It was a clear penalty, right?
It was a penalty in the Aaron fashion. Like, and again, that's what I think of those teams, right?
Yeah.
Like willing things to happen. It just felt like there was never a moment or, a situation that we couldn't get out of or find a way to, get success in those moments. And Aaron was the best at like willing something to happen. And so we get a penalty, get an extended, a non-time down, last play of the game. And just nobody could throw that ball. I don't think anyone in the history of football could throw that ball as high and as far as he did. I mean, it looked like a punt.
Right,
that ball was up in the rafters there in Detroit and Ford Field. I'm like thinking it might hit one of the rafters, and it comes straight down. And all those guys, like, Richard Rodgers just literally boxed them out and like was able to just field that thing. I remember running on the field. I threw my helmet. Like, I don't know. I lost my helmet in the chaos and just hitting people and dogpiling. I mean, it was like those moments, you can feel them. Like when I talk about and think, like, it's just like, you can feel like take yourself back into it. And it's an iconic moment in the history of Aaron. And then he does it again later that year in Arizona, right? Like, I think of all the things Aaron has, that's one of them as well. Like nobody throws a better Hail Mary than Aaron Rodgers, and he's proven it over and over.
When you talk to Aaron about the Hail Marys, was it just kind of like at this point, he I'm assuming thought, I'm going to score on these Hail Marys this way because I've got two, in the bag.
Well, I mean, again, like nothing that ever happens in a game, rarely hasn't been practiced, right? So like, he knew what kind of ball, and he was a student of the game. So he's like, all right, if I throw this ball with this trajectory, if it's coming down like more vertical, like it's going to give our guys, if they get in the right position, like Richard Rodgers did, like it's going to give our guys a better chance to field it because a lot of those DBs get behind, right? Like they almost get behind you, and they're going to try to swat the ball out if it's coming flatter, right? And so he knew if he could get a guy to like back it down and like that angle came down, he was going to have the best chance. So just like in pure Aaron fashion, just kind of smarter than a lot of the guys out there. So and I just remember watching him in practice. I mean, he'd throw 3 or 4 of those a week.
Wow. Yeah.
And again, those teams too were so like that we were allowed to have fun, right? Like Aaron made sure that there were fun moments in every practice. They'd run 2-minute drills and he would run it and they'd run a serious one. And then the next one would be offensive lineman would be quarterback. And you'd have, linemen running receiver routes because it was like they all needed to know what they were trying to do, right? Like it was like the offense wasn't just run by Aaron, it was run by everybody. Like the more everybody knew what each person was doing, the better off that the whole unit would be.
One of the kicks that I wanted to ask you about was in 2016, you had a pretty big kick, right? Can you tell me about that one?
Again, going back to Dallas,
Right.
being from Texas and going home, it was I had some big kicks in Dallas, and love kicking in that stadium. It's a nice one to kick in.
The good one for you.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember obviously going back to the play that got there, just another like street ball type play.
Yep.
I mean, literally the play was like Jared Cook run across the field and get to the far sideline, and Aaron's going to try to find him. Like it wasn't, there was nothing really drawn up, right? And so that's what it looks like. If you follow Jared Cook, he just literally meanders across the field, and then timing right, and Aaron hits him on the sideline, one of the best throws you'll ever see, right? And Jared keeps his toes in. I just remember after that, I know it's probably a catch. Like everybody's looking at it. I felt like I was on the field for an eternity, though. So they go over, and what's weird there is like they were over by my kicking net, looking at the replay. So I wasn't able to, once they started reviewing, go and hit another ball.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of moving around, and I always said I do these 30-second like check-in like resets. So I'd kind of get ready, like if they call, say it's a catch and we're going on the field, I'm like, I'll be ready. And then it's like every 30 seconds, I'd kind of reset and then lock back in, you know? And so I'm like, it felt like I did that like 15 times. I'm like just sitting there like, come on. I still remember though, it almost like, I like thinking like in those nostalgic ways, like where it's like, I grew up in Texas watching the Cowboys play, and I'm literally walking across the Star to go and win a game, and in this stadium, obviously not for the Cowboys, but it's like think of my childhood self.
Right.
I look down, I'm like standing in the middle of the Star, getting ready to go win a game, and it was a really cool moment. And had to do it twice. First kick was just a great kick right down the middle, but on that first kick, I felt like they were collapsing our right side, and they got some serious pressure. Heath off the edge had blocked some field goals before. So I was like, I'm gonna thin it up just a little bit from like what that first one was, still give myself enough margin, all that. Unfortunately, when it came off, I was like, was my line a little more?
Yeah.
And how I hit it, like I had a kick like in those kind of tough situations that it kind of like came off straight and like fell. Like it was almost like a fade in golf.
Okay.
Like it was like, just kind of fell right. When I hit it, I was like, oh gosh, like, when's it going to fall? And sure enough, it was like about goal line, it starts moving right. And I was just like, my reaction kind of said it all. I was like I kind of put my hands on my face, and I was like, just thank you. Gosh, like I almost changed my line a little too much for my liking.
You almost over-adjusted just a tad.
Exactly.
But you made it. So
it went in. Like I said, it didn't always have to be perfect, but just get the job done.
Well, it's funny that you're thinking through all of this stuff, and we're watching it as fans going, oh, he's going to kick it, but you're thinking to yourself, I got to do it a little bit different, do this, that. There's so much.
The angles for the NFL hashes are just so small, right? Because you're not wide like in college. Like that angle is pretty harsh.
Yeah.
Like in the NFL, like straight is on the upright, you're hitting the upright. Like that angle is slight, especially from that distance. It's like you're talking like a degree, of like difference. And so they're very small adjustments, but they're very, you have to be precise and be detailed. So just go through it really fast too. It's like, all right, I get my line. All right, that's like where I want to aim. Like you just kind of do that process. And again, like the Charles Woodson stuff, like I left my foot, like I can't do anything. I just had to make sure, block out that noise. I mean, it's shaking in that building. It was loud, and I don't remember any of the noise. I don't remember anything before the kick, which is kind of wild. Like whenever I watch the film, I'm like, I don't remember any of that. It's just I remember like my breath, and then it moved right and went in, and then it was like the relief. It was like the silence from the crowd, and then the energy from the team. It was kind of a cool. There's nothing better than sucking the energy out of an away stadium. Like it's hard to explain unless you've like been on a field and like been in that moment where it's so loud and deafening, and then all of a sudden it's just like it's just a quiet hum. Like it just goes away and everyone's disappointed and you're celebrating with your teammates.
Yeah, and your teams, you're on the top of the world, right?
The side videos, watching everyone run in on the sideline and Aaron's reaction, all that stuff is just so cool.
I believe was it 2020 that you had like the perfect field goal season?
Made all my field goals. Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, it was tough. Obviously it was COVID year.
Yeah.
Everything was locked down. But again, another great team, opportunity for us, and no better place to do it than Green Bay, where it's like, all right, it's football. Like we're locked in, we're going to do this, or can't do anything else. Like let's make sure we take care of our job. We had an awesome team. That was a fun year, even though it was really tricky. And I honestly, kind of behind the scenes, dealt with a lot of injury that year. So I actually looked at that year as like one of those, even not just making all my kicks, but like another time where I was able to play 258 straight games that I didn't miss a game, because I played with a torn calf in my plant foot for like half the season.
Wow.
I had a hip and a back thing at one point. Like I was dealing with stuff the whole time and was able. So we played Minnesota on Sunday, and then we were going to 49ers on a Thursday night. And in that game on Sunday, pulled something in my calf. And then while I was rehabbing that, my low back and hip locked up on Tuesday. Jeez. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to play in this game. And, they're trying to figure out if they're going to, try to, but COVID ruled, it was hard to bring somebody in.
Yep.
And I'm like, I got it. We tape this thing up, we figure out how, I'm going to tape my leg. I'm going to play in this game. And sure enough, we go into that 49ers game, and I had to kick I think it was late in the game. I don't think it even mattered. And I'm like, why are we doing it? I kicked a 54-yarder in that game. And I'm like, again, just will it to happen.
Yep.
You just go out there and you find a way, because, like I said, going all the way back to the beginning, it was no excuses. My parents, they supported me fully, but they're just like, hey, if you're going to put yourself out there, no excuses. You go and do it, right? And so that was always my mindset.
Well, and you did that because I heard an interview that you had given, and there was times where you couldn't even basically get out of bed because your hip or your knee, but you did it. You got out, and you not only did it, then you went and played the game. So,
well, and I talk about team. I'm so thankful for the team I had off the field in Green Bay as well. From chiropractors and my PT people and massage therapists. I had there were a lot of people that I give so much credit to for being able to stay on the field like I did. I couldn't have done it by myself.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I just remember there was, Molly called, and I was laying up in bed. I think it was on a Tuesday after a game, and, my back's locked up, my knee, everything's hurting. And I just remember three, professional, a chiropractor, a PT, and my massage person, they come into my room, right? And I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. It's we do some dry needling, we do some movement, some stretch, some, soft tissue stuff. I was still hurting, but I was just so grateful that people would step in and help me in that situation, and was able to just, kind of find a way to rally. But, it wasn't always easy, but I'm so glad that I was able to push through and find a way to keep playing in those games.
Well, and obviously you're a legend. You're a legend as the amount of consecutive games. We talked 258 in the NFL, but also you did that through college. You add on, you're in the 300s.
Yeah,
and then I think you have 1,918 points for the Green Bay Packers, all-time leading scorer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff you're to accomplish, right? I mean, that's wild, right?
And being done and being retired now, I can actually look at that. I'd get asked that towards the end of my career, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know how, I wouldn't count them up, and it was just I'll focus on that when I'm done.
Sure.
It's going to be cool to look back with my kids and with my grandkids and be like, yeah, I did that. But, again, I say kids and grand, that stuff is really important to me as well, right? The legacy of those things. But yeah, it is cool to look back and say my name will be associated with the Green Bay Packers for forever. those records, some of those records are going to be hard to be broken.
Yep.
Especially in modern NFL. Like, it's just hard to imagine somebody else playing 16 years at my position and like breaking some of those things. So yeah, I couldn't have asked to be attached to a better organization too. It's like the fan base, the history, and the iconic organization that Green Bay Packers are. To be associated with that in any capacity is huge. And then the amount of history that I was able to help add to that is really special. And it's going to be so great as I just continue to be retired and being able to go back and experience things in a different way.
I think it's so cool how you appreciate the history and the culture of the Packers organization, and then you set yourself in stone with you've got the win from the Super Bowl. You got the ring. You're part of that team. It's always going to be. I'm sure if you've gone in the Packer Hall of Fame now, all that history. Yeah, it's in there. And then on top of that, the records that you set, which not easy to surpass. So
yeah, for sure. Well, and again, then it's that, like the Super Bowl team. It's like teammates. It's like I'm doing radio, which and it's like to be able to tap into those relationships and just be like, hey, let's talk about, let's talk ball and let's talk about memories and let's do all that. Like, that's actually been something that's been awesome for me getting into this side of things and being in the media side of it, is being able to just call up my buddies and have a conversation and like remember moments and hear their perspectives and like let them share on that. Because when you're in it, like, you're not reminiscing, you're not talking about it. And sometimes you go and hang out like on the side that like some things don't come up. So it's nice to have a platform to just be like, hey, let's make sure everybody, like, people don't forget like what these moments were.
Well, that's why it's cool with you sharing all these inside stories. I mean, I love to hear them. I'm sure everybody that listens is going to love to hear it. One other question that I wanted to ask you about is, what's your favorite Aaron Rodgers story?
Oh man, there's a lot of them. He liked to play pranks on everybody. He always obviously had a great relationship with his offensive linemen. They loved each other, but he would mess with them a lot too, because I think he just wanted to always keep it light and fun. Sure. Like, remember that we play a game, right? It's like, work really hard, do all the details, but then go play the game. Like, and he always played that way, right? It was like some of the throws, some of the things he was able to do, it was like sometimes backyard ball, and you're making up plays on the fly. And so, he would. There was one year that we actually had, like, Coach McCarthy had to like put an official into it because it was getting so bad back and forth, putting stink bombs in like the offensive lineman room. And then they'd obviously over retaliate and they'd like put it in his locker in his car or something and like went off, and it kept going back and forth for a while. And so I just remember those pranks, training camp, like when training camps would get long and crazy stuff would start happening. Like, I think there was a cricket situation at some point where someone got 500 crickets released in their room, and I think they bought every cricket in the Fox Valley.
And Aaron may or may not have something to do with it.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's no one's, you can't prove it happened, but
right.
Yeah, like those types of things I'll always remember. Obviously, we all can remember the things on the field, but the teammates stuff.
Yeah.
And then like a really deep personal one, like his support of me in good and bad times, right? Like, he was always so supportive of my career, how hard it was to kick in Lambeau, and like how much he appreciated like what I was able to do there. It was just an awesome teammate. He was so supportive of our family. When Molly had cancer in 2019, he just did anything he needed to help us out in that situation. And then going back to the 258 games, like that video, I was surprised. Like, there was a video that came out, like, and I think they played it over the big screen.
Yeah.
And, he was a narrator. And like, I heard it again the other day and I was like, man, like that was like so special. And like, it was, obviously it was an end of an era,
right.
Too. Like Aaron and I weren't going to play for the Packers again after that. And just having that for always is something that, means a lot, because he was, we were teammates for 16 years, and like I had so many iconic moments on and off the field, like just so many memories that I hold truly dear to my heart.
And to think it all started with him as your holder. I love it. And then he's narrating for you.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think the fact now that there's potentially, right, Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy reuniting?
I mean, who knows,
right?
The rumor mill will start flying here, right? Because and Aaron won't say any. He'll just let everybody like throw the rumors and the possibilities out there, and then he'll just come out of nowhere and make a decision at some point. But yeah, I'm so glad Coach McCarthy has landed back home, in Pittsburgh, and think about his journey. Like Green Bay Packers, Dallas Cowboys, and Pittsburgh Steelers, like 3 iconic franchises that Coach McCarthy is going to be the head coach of, and I would love it. I'd love the stories if they ran it back at least 1 year just to see if some of that magic could come back.
And we'll find out, right? We'll see what happens. We'll see what Aaron does. One of the things and you hit on it, but you went to Green Bay, obviously, then you retired. Part of that was what I think is really cool, and I want to ask you how it felt to be in Green Bay and that fan base, but also that all of your 5 kids were born in Green Bay. They're Wisconsinites, right?
Yep, exactly.
So I guess this sum it up. I mean, what does Green Bay mean to you, the fan base, the team?
Oh man, I don't know if we have time for me to run all that, but obviously retiring as a Packer was so special to me and our family. My kids, like you said, being born there in Green Bay, I would have never thought, how the NFL is. It's like you think you probably play for a couple teams, you don't know what the journey is going to be like. The same doctor, same hospital, 5 kids, like there in Green Bay, Wisconsin, just was not something that would have been on my bingo card, if you will. But we made it a home. I'm seeing some of my friends, when every time I come into Milwaukee, it's like I meet up and go to dinner with people that I've known for 20 years now. And, these are lifelong relationships. And it wasn't just a place I played. We lived there full time, made Green Bay and made Wisconsin our home. I mean, we come back, Kohler, Wisconsin is probably one of my favorite places in the world. It's like Molly and I go and, we used to do staycations down there when I was playing in Green Bay, and we try to come back once or twice a year and just take a night or two and vacation there. And I'm still very entrenched in community here in Wisconsin, and I'll never stop, because it was not just impactful in my playing career for like what I did for the Packers, but for our family and for our life, and just have so many people that I say thank you to, but like we'll never say, it's like I'll never say goodbye.
Right.
Like, for me, it's never like a goodbye, Wisconsin. Like, that was awesome. Thanks for 16 years. It's just like, all right, what's this next journey going to be, right? Because I do a softball game in Beloit. We're going to have our 2nd annual this summer, and I still, do a lot with Lombardi Cancer Foundation and Make-A-Wish, and like I'm on the radio, and so Wisconsin will always be a part of my life, and I hope to continue that on for as long as possible.
I think it's awesome. You've done such a great job. Good things for Wisconsin. Obviously brought a lot of celebration to the Green Bay Packer fan base, and put away some games for us.
Yeah. It's like now that I'm done kicking, like I can never miss a field goal again. So everything is what it is. It's like my legacy is intact, and it's like anyone misses a kick, they're like, well, would Mason have made it? And it's like, we don't know.
We can assume he will.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, the last thing is, because this is the Midwest Legends podcast, who's a Midwest legend to you?
Oh, man. Midwest legend. I'm trying to think.
And I know you haven't been. I mean, you kind of have been all over the Midwest just because you've played. You've played across Midwest, so it could be.
Let me. Does it have to be in football?
Does not have to be in football.
I'll give a funny one, and I'll make Molly listen to this episode, because this was one of my favorite moments in Green Bay. Tony Shalhoub, is a Green Bay native, monk, all the things. And we got to meet him early on in my career there in Green Bay at a charity event.
All right.
And I had never seen my wife. And like, you know, I play in the NFL. We've been to huge things. I had never seen her starstruck like she was with Tony Shalhoub. I was like uncomfortable. I was like, sweetheart, like, stop, please. It was she had just like spent the day. There was like a monk marathon on. It was like this perfect storm.
Yep.
And we meet him, and she's just like, she was like doing the weird like blabber thing. So Tony Shalhoub is going to be a Midwest legend. That like his acting career, like what he's done in that space for so long, being from Green Bay, Wisconsin, I just think is awesome.
Good answer. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Mason, I'll let you off the seat now. I mean, I appreciate you.
All right. That was a lot of fun.
It was. We went a little bit over the hour, so I appreciate you.
I appreciate you and all you do with
Yeah.
our show and your support for us.
No, it's great. It's great to be part of it. It was awesome when I got to sit in a little bit at the draft.
Yeah.
So that was, and then Jordy Nelson was there, another iconic guy. So
Heck
to see
yeah.
you guys there, that was great.
Hey, wait, don't head out just yet. Do you have a story that's so Midwest it couldn't have happened anywhere else? Or do you know a Midwest legend in your own life? Give me a call at 866-MWLEGND. Your story may be featured on our future episode or on our socials. Looking forward to hearing your Midwest legend.